There comes a time in life when you realize that not everyone who touches your heart deserves to stay in it. You give them your kindness, your loyalty, your time, and they mistake it for weakness. But the truth? The silence after your departure will scream louder than any argument. The day you stop explaining, stop chasing, and stop trying to prove your worth, that's the day they start remembering who you were. The echo of your absence becomes the most haunting sound in their world. People always think the person who walks away loses, but in reality, it's the one who pushed you away who truly loses everything. You see, silence is not empty. It's full of answers, full of lessons, full of echoes of what they took for granted. When you disappear from someone's daily routine, they start to see how heavy your presence really was. Your value becomes a mirror they can no longer look into, because it reflects everything they lost through their own carelessness. The first silent way to make people regret losing you is to elevate in peace. When you grow quietly, it burns louder than revenge ever could. Let your evolution speak for itself. Let your transformation become a movie they can't stop replaying in their mind. While they wonder what you're doing, who you're becoming, and whether you've forgotten them, you'll be too busy building a version of yourself they can never reach again. Silence backed by progress is the loudest storm. When they expected you to fall apart, choose to rebuild. When they thought they broke you, choose to shine harder. People regret losing the ones who rise after being destroyed because nothing haunts the human soul more than watching the one they underestimated evolve into everything they once prayed for. Your silence in those moments isn't weakness. It's poetic justice. It's your soul saying, I don't need to speak. My peace will do the talking. The second silent way is to move on without closure. Don't beg them to understand what they failed to see. Don't hand them explanations they're too blind to comprehend. Let unanswered questions become their punishment. The mind torments itself over unfinished stories. And your story, left incomplete, becomes their insomnia. Walk away so gracefully that they feel your calm more than they ever felt your presence. That's real power, to let go quietly while they scream internally. It's ironic how people only start valuing your silence once they can no longer access your voice. They scroll through your old messages, replay your laughter in their head, and realize that every word you spoke had meaning they never appreciated. That's when regret begins. Not when you left, but when they finally wake up to what they destroyed. The silence you left behind becomes the sound of their conscience. The third silent way to make people regret losing you is to forgive them without telling them. Forgiveness is freedom. It's cutting the chain that keeps you tied to the past. But you don't owe them the satisfaction of knowing they're forgiven. Let them live wondering whether you still hate them or if you've completely moved on. That uncertainty becomes their prison. True peace is when you no longer want closure or revenge. You just don't care anymore. You must understand, silence is not passive. It's a form of emotional mastery. It's the point where your energy stops being wasted on proving anything to anyone. You stop explaining your worth. You stop chasing validation. And the moment you do that, something magical happens. You reclaim your power. The person who can remain silent in chaos is always the one in control. While they panic trying to get your attention, you'll be calm, untouchable, unbothered. Regret doesn't come from your absence. It comes from your evolution. When people see that you're doing better without them, it shakes their soul. They start realizing they were never your savior. You were theirs. You carried them emotionally. You made them feel seen. And your energy was their comfort zone. When you pull that away and redirect it into yourself, you teach them the hardest truth. No one is replaceable when they love with purity. The fourth silent way is to glow differently. Upgrade your energy. Change your environment. Redefine your look, your routine, your mindset. The best revenge is not showing them you've moved on. It's becoming someone they'll never get access to again. Be so focused on your own evolution that when they see you, it feels like looking at a stranger who outgrew their entire existence. That's how you make regret permanent. They might post things to make it look like they're fine, but deep down, they're watching your silence destroy them. Every time you don't respond, every time you don't react, they realize the power they thought they had over you has vanished. Your indifference becomes their nightmare. Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Hate means you still care. Indifference means they no longer exist in your world. Never underestimate the weight of absence. Presence can be ignored, but absence cannot. When you were there, they took your light for granted. When you leave, darkness reminds them what they lost. That's the paradox of human nature. People only see value when it's gone. So instead of forcing them to understand, vanish. Let time teach them what your words couldn't. The fifth silent way is to succeed privately. Make your wins mysterious. Let them find out about your growth through whispers and screenshots, not through your announcements. Let them hear about you doing well from people they never expected. Success that arrives quietly burns deeper than success that's flaunted. Because while they pretend not to care, their curiosity eats them alive. There's an art to moving in silence. It's not about pretending. It's about protecting your peace. You stop posting every detail, stop seeking attention, and start valuing your own energy. The less they know about your next move, the more they'll regret letting you go. The unknown is terrifying to the guilty. Your mystery becomes their mirror of failure. The sixth silent way is to heal fully. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who healed in silence and came back stronger, wiser, and emotionally unavailable to the past. When you heal, you no longer seek closure, you become it. Your peace becomes their punishment. They'll crave the old version of you, but that version doesn't exist anymore. You outgrew their chaos. And finally, the seventh silent way, disappear with grace. Not out of ego, but out of self-respect. Leave their world quietly and never return to check if they miss you. Let your silence be your final message. Because one day, when they're surrounded by noise, they'll realize that your silence was the only sound that ever brought them peace. The truth is, silence is not about ignoring them. It's about honoring yourself. It's the art of saying, I no longer need your validation to feel whole. You stop begging for attention because you realize your energy is sacred. And that realization hits them harder than any words ever could. Because when you stop chasing, they start noticing. When you stop reaching out, they start reaching back. But by then it's too late. You've already ascended beyond their reach. People regret losing those who had the power to destroy them, but chose instead to walk away quietly. That kind of strength terrifies the fragile ego. They expect chaos, revenge, drama, but you give them silence. That silence becomes a mirror reflecting their own immaturity. It reminds them that you were not just another person. You were a lesson they refused to learn. And the universe has a way of replaying that lesson until it finally hurts enough to change them. There's beauty in not reacting. Every time you refuse to respond, you take back control of the narrative. You stop being a character in their story and become the author of your own. That's the power of restraint, watching the storm rage while remaining still. They expected you to crumble. They wanted to see your pain, but instead they see your glow, your peace, your silence. And that hurts more than anything they could have imagined. When they left, they thought they took the best parts of you with them. But what they didn't realize was that you were the source. You were the giver, the nurturer, the light. They were simply reflecting your energy. So when you walked away, they lost the very thing that made them feel alive. Now they chase replacements that never compare, searching for a reflection that only you could provide. There's something haunting about realizing you were the peace in someone's storm. You were their calm, their grounding energy. And now their world feels louder, colder, emptier. You don't have to say a single word for them to feel that loss. It's in every song they skip, every memory they try to suppress, every quiet night when their thoughts scream louder than their pride. That's when regret creeps in, not with noise but in silence. The best revenge is not revenge at all. It's walking away with your integrity untouched. It's smiling even when they expect bitterness. It's glowing even when they hoped you'd fade. It's your peace that breaks their ego. Your calm that destroys their illusion of control. Because nothing confuses a manipulator more than realizing they no longer have access to your emotions. You owe no one an explanation for your healing. You owe no one closure, no justification, no second chance. Sometimes, closure is accepting that they'll never understand the pain they caused. And that's okay, because your growth is no longer about proving anything. It's about reclaiming your power. When you finally stop seeking answers from others, you start finding them within yourself. That's when true transformation begins. Silence is the ultimate teacher. It teaches you patience, discipline, and perspective. It shows you who's real and who's temporary. When you fall quiet, the noise around you reveals its true nature. The people who truly care will stay, even when you stop talking. The ones who were there for convenience will fade away. And in that revelation, you find peace. A peace so strong it becomes untouchable. They will remember your kindness. They will remember the way you made them feel safe. They will remember the energy you brought into their life. But by the time realization hits, you'll already be gone. You'll be somewhere new, surrounded by people who recognize your worth without needing to lose you first. That's how the universe rewards those who choose peace over drama. There's power in becoming unrecognizable to your past. When people who once broke you see you glowing, evolving, and succeeding, it reminds them that they were never your limitation. They were your motivation. They thought they ended your story, but you used the pain as ink to write a better one. And that's why silence hurts them. It proves they never truly mattered in your rise. You're not cold for choosing peace. You're not heartless for walking away. You're just finally prioritizing your mental and emotional health. The world will tell you to forgive and reconnect, but sometimes the most spiritual act is to detach completely, because you can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Silence is not withdrawal, it's protection. You're protecting the peace that took you years to find. What they thought was the end was only your beginning. The moment they let you go, they unknowingly freed you from their limitations. You no longer carry the weight of their expectations, their opinions, or their judgment. You're finally free to become who you were meant to be. And when they see that version of you, the one who no longer needs them, they'll regret ever making you question your worth. You must understand that people don't regret losing you immediately. Regret is a slow poison. It starts small, just a random memory, a dream, a song. And then it grows. It grows into sleepless nights, unanswered questions, and the realization that they were the reason you're gone. By the time they're ready to apologize, you've already healed. That's when silence becomes the loudest I told you so. When you choose silence, you choose maturity. Because arguing with someone who's already decided to misunderstand you is draining. You stop trying to prove your point to people who are committed to missing it. And the moment you stop fighting to be heard, you start finding peace. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. The truth doesn't need your defense. It reveals itself in time. And one day, when they finally realize what they lost, you won't even care anymore. That's the final stage of growth. You don't want revenge, you don't want closure, you just want peace. You'll look back and thank them for walking away because their absence gave you back to yourself. That's not just silence, that's transformation. One of the most powerful things you can ever do is to stop trying to prove your worth to people who made you doubt it. The moment you stop performing for validation, you become dangerous. Because they no longer have power over your emotions. You reclaim your focus, your time, your peace. And while they wait for you to break, you'll be busy building. That's when the regret begins. When your silence becomes a reminder of how powerful you always were, even when they failed to see it. People will always remember the ones who loved them right, the ones who stayed loyal, patient, and kind, even when they didn't deserve it. And when they lose that kind of soul, it haunts them forever. Because genuine love is rare, and once it's gone, everything else feels like noise. Your silence becomes the loudest reminder that they'll never find another you. They'll look for your kindness in others and never find the same warmth again. You see, when you walk away quietly, you confuse the world of those who wronged you. They expect drama, they expect shouting, they expect the version of you that needed to be heard. But instead, they get nothing, no response, no closure, no chaos, just peace. And peace is terrifying to people who feed on conflict. They can't fight silence. It echoes too deeply. It makes them face themselves, and most people aren't ready for that. Every person who hurt you will eventually face a moment when they miss your energy. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, they'll remember how it felt to be understood without words, to be loved without conditions, to be seen without pretending. And in that moment, regret will become their shadow. You'll be the one that got away, not because of chance, but because they didn't have the capacity to keep you. The silence you give them isn't punishment. It's a lesson. It's the universe showing them the difference between being wanted and being tolerated. When they had your attention, they mistook it for dependence. Now that you've gone quiet, they realize it was devotion. They'll scroll through your old photos, revisit your messages, and wonder how someone who once cared so much could just vanish. But the truth is, you didn't vanish. You evolved. There's a point in healing when you stop wishing they'd come back, because you finally see that their absence was necessary for your evolution. The pain they caused wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up, to remind you of your strength, to realign you with your purpose. And once that awakening happens, silence isn't a choice anymore. It's your new language, the language of peace, power, and self-respect. It's funny how people only start to respect your boundaries once they realize they no longer have access to you. When you stop answering their calls, stop explaining, stop showing up for those who wouldn't do the same for you, that's when they start paying attention. Your absence teaches louder than your presence ever could, because boundaries backed by silence become unbreakable walls. When you stop reacting, you stop being predictable. They no longer know how to reach you, how to trigger you, how to manipulate your emotions. You become mysterious, untouchable, unreadable. And that drives them insane. Because nothing torments a guilty mind more than silence. The more they try to provoke a reaction, the more they realize they no longer have the power they once enjoyed. There's nothing more magnetic than someone who healed quietly. You'll notice how peace radiates from your presence. You'll notice how your energy changes when you no longer carry the weight of trying to fix people. That's when the universe starts sending better things your way. Better love, better opportunities, better connections. Because you made room for them by letting go of what was draining you. Don't mistake silence for weakness. It's one of the most intimidating forms of strength. Anyone can argue, anyone can shout, anyone can post their pain for attention. But it takes a truly powerful soul to smile in silence, to keep moving forward while the world wonders how. Your silence tells a story that words never could. It says, I've healed, I've moved on, I've reclaimed my peace. Regret doesn't just come from losing someone. It comes from realizing you'll never get the same version of them again. They might come back, they might apologize, they might even cry. But it won't matter. Because the person you were when they broke you no longer exists. You've grown, hardened, evolved. The version of you they once knew is gone forever. And that truth is what breaks them. It's a strange kind of revenge, isn't it? To no longer care. To no longer be affected by their absence. To no longer seek validation from the same person who made you feel like you weren't enough. That's the power of silence. It doesn't destroy them immediately. It slowly dismantles the illusion that they had control. Every day they see you thriving without them, a piece of their ego dies. Silence also reveals something else. It shows you who you truly are without their influence. You rediscover your voice, your dreams, your joy. You realize how much energy you wasted trying to convince them to see your worth. And when you finally start living for yourself, life rewards you in ways you never imagined. Because self-love attracts everything you once begged for. And when the tables turn, when the same people who ignored you suddenly want your attention again, you won't even feel anger. You'll just smile quietly. Because you'll know that you've outgrown their world. That's what silence does. It creates distance, not just physically, but spiritually. You no longer vibrate on their level. You've elevated beyond recognition. They'll look at you and realize that the same person they once overlooked has become untouchable. You've built a new identity out of their rejection. You've turned heartbreak into power. And now, every move you make in silence becomes a message. I didn't lose you, you lost me. That's the kind of energy that makes people regret ever letting you go. There comes a stage in your evolution when silence no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like power. You stop needing to be understood. You stop trying to explain and you start living. You no longer measure your worth by who stays or who leaves. You realize that some losses are actually divine redirections. Every person who walked away was simply making room for your rebirth. You stop mourning what left and start celebrating what's coming. It's poetic, really. The same silence they once mocked becomes the silence that destroys them. They used to call you cold, distant, unbothered. Now they see it for what it truly was, strength. Because only strong souls can stay silent in the face of disrespect. Only disciplined minds can walk away without needing to make noise. And that silence becomes the sound of your boundaries, the rhythm of your healing, the heartbeat of your new life. The ones who lost you will replay every conversation, every moment, every mistake. They'll wonder how they didn't see your worth when it was standing right in front of them. But regret doesn't reverse time. It only teaches through pain. And while they're stuck in what if, you'll be too far gone to care. You'll be too busy living the life they thought you couldn't have without them. That's how you win. Not by revenge, but by peace. You must understand this. Your silence will disturb their soul more than your words ever could, because silence has a way of forcing reflection. It strips away excuses, distractions, and denial. When you stop talking, they start hearing everything they ignored. Your silence becomes their mirror. It shows them who they are when you're no longer there to soften their flaws. And that realization cuts deeper than any goodbye. It's not your job to make them regret losing you. Your growth will do that naturally. Every achievement, every smile, every peaceful night of sleep becomes a reminder of what they lost. People don't regret the goodbye. They regret the aftermath. They regret realizing that you were the one who made love look easy, peace feel possible, and chaos seem calm. They regret it when they realize your energy was never ordinary. It was rare. So don't chase, don't explain, don't try to prove anything. The universe always exposes the truth in silence. The ones who took you for granted will learn the value of your presence through your absence. They'll learn that silence isn't a lack of emotion. It's a declaration of self-worth. And when they finally come to that realization, you'll already be too healed to look back. It's funny how the tables always turn. The same people who once ignored you will suddenly start watching everything you do. They'll notice your confidence, your peace, your glow. They'll wonder who you've become. And the answer will burn them. You became everything they tried to destroy. Because the fire they left you in didn't consume you. It refined you. Your silence became your armor, your strength, your transformation. When you learn to be okay without closure, you become unstoppable. Because closure is just another form of control. You stop waiting for their apology, their explanation, their understanding. You realize you don't need it. You gave yourself the closure the moment you stopped caring. That's the most powerful kind of healing, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone but you. You will reach a point where silence becomes your superpower. You'll move differently. You'll speak less but mean more. You'll no longer chase love. You'll attract it naturally, effortlessly. Because you've turned your pain into peace, your heartbreak into wisdom. The energy that once bled for others will now build empires, heal hearts, and inspire souls. That's what happens when you master the art of silence. And one day, they'll see you again. Maybe in person, maybe online, maybe through whispers of your success. They'll see your peace, your glow, your new life. And they'll feel that familiar sting of regret. They'll realize that losing you wasn't just losing a person, it was losing a blessing they weren't ready to handle. A blessing that now blesses the world instead. You don't have to block them to be gone. You don't have to post quotes to prove your strength. Just live, just rise, just exist in your authenticity. Because your silence, your grace, your evolution, they speak for you. The most haunting kind of regret is realizing that the person who loved you hardest is now unreachable. You don't need revenge when you've already outgrown their world. People will always come back to the energy that made them feel safe, but that doesn't mean you have to let them in again. You can forgive without reopening doors. You can love without reattaching. You can remember without returning. That's emotional freedom. That's when you know you've healed. Not when you stop caring, but when you stop hurting. Your silence isn't cold. It's healed. Never underestimate the beauty of detachment. It doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop suffering. It means you choose peace over explanation, boundaries over begging, growth over guilt. You don't owe anyone access to your soul just because they had it once. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to protect your peace in silence. And in the end, the greatest revenge is no revenge at all. It's inner peace. It's waking up every day without bitterness, without resentment, without needing to prove anything. It's looking back at everything that broke you and realizing it built you instead. That's when you know you've won. Because while they're haunted by your silence, you're finally free in it. The day you learn that silence is strength is the day you stop losing. You stop over-explaining. You stop begging to be seen. You stop fighting for space in hearts that were never meant to hold you. And you finally rise into your power. The quiet kind, the peaceful kind, the kind that shakes the world without saying a word. Because in the end, silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of power.